प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य महाणीस्थ श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासि अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om. May my speech be firmly established in my mind. May the mind too be firmly established in my speech. May there be perfect correspondence between my thoughts, words, and actions. O self-effulgent Lord, be revealed unto me. May the truths of the scriptures come to me. May not what I learn from them ever forsake me. Let me live my life day and night according to their teachings. I shall speak what is appropriate. I shall speak the truth. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om, peace, peace, peace. Let us feel our true, divine, all-pervading, omniscient nature, our true self, as the sun, like one can see millions of reflections of that sun in various droplets and receptacles of water. So there appear to be different I in different bodies. They are just reflections. The true self, like this sun, is the same, one without second, reflected in infinitely many different receptacles. So let us feel this oneness of self. For that one has to transcend the limitation of body. I am not the body. I am not in this body. I am beyond. I am beyond all forms. I am beyond time and space. I am the existence, the consciousness, the bliss. Om. Peace, peace, peace. So friends, let us begin today's discussion with our usual chant. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam kalmashapaham shravanamangalam श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ते भूरिदा जनाः. We were discussing how Sri Ramakrishna's mind could go in any mind because it was, he was transcendent over a particular mind as such or particular body as such. So that which is transcendent over that can work through any body. And that transcendental experience is when we rise above this physicality, we get it. Sometimes it also happens accidentally. It is reported in this book itself, it has been quoted that one scientist, Humphrey Davy, was performing some experiments with the certain gases, and then the nitrous oxide, which gets called in chemistry books as the laughing gas. Somehow he inhaled that, and then he went into a different level of awareness. But that was a matter of accident, not that he could stay in that state of awareness. So, this is how it only indicates that we are not actually tied to the body, and thus we can rise above that awareness. This is something that we must imprint on our minds. Here Swami Saradananda also quotes the experience of Ralph Waldo Emerson, the transcendentalist that we know. An eminent philosopher of the West had a glimpse of the mind ascending to and descending from samadhi, and then expressed his belief that within the human body consciousness is within the human body consciousness is not always present in the same degree. This reasonable view was also held by the ancient rishis of India. In fact, human beings' true home lies in the highest non-dual plane. But ordinary people have completely forgotten this and have a firm conviction that knowledge can be acquired only through the senses. Satisfied with this, they have anchored their boats to the world without attempting to cross the ocean of Maya. World teachers, adhikarikas, and celebrated avataras like Master are born in every age to remove this delusion by demonstrating another way in their own lives and transcending the world of senses. Such is the teaching of the Vedas and other scriptures. This delusion is very common. In fact, it is difficult to talk against it, that we have such tremendous belief that our senses, our sensory organs like ears, touch, eyes, taste and smell, they bring us knowledge. That is the very common understanding. Now let us, even a little thought about it shows that how this is hollow. This kind of understanding is meaningless. The senses only distort the knowledge. They do not bring us any knowledge. They distort it. Like the example given by Shankaracharya, I am quoting here in Dakshinamurti hymn. I learned a lot from that example and many similar ideas, that suppose you have a light kept in a pot and the pot has holes, and the light of that lamp is coming out from the holes in the pot. Now, do the holes generate light? The holes are not generating light. It is the pot is covering the light, and the pot has certain holes, and according to the size and shape of that hole, the light of the lamp inside is coming out. It is not bringing us any, the holes are not bringing us any light from outside. It is that light gets expressed through the holes, that's all. That is how we feel that these holes, in fact, the word used for the sensory organs for in Vedanta is holes. They are holes. So, through which the light of the self expresses itself. These holes do not create any light. They distort the light inside by generating the idea that the light has this shape and this quality. It is not at all true. In fact, the senses cheat us. There are so many examples, and we already experience these things in life. Optical delusion. And we see something, we see for sure, but it is not there. Like mirage or the horizon. We see all that, but it is not there. Many times what the eyes show us is not at all correct. For example, if you look in the sky now, you will see so many stars, and they may appear to be close to each other. But they are not close to each other. They are maybe light years apart from each other. But then they are seen as if they are in the sky. They are close to each other. That is the optical illusion. It is that we do not see by the eyes the reality as such. They give wrong knowledge, not right knowledge. Similarly with all other organs. And therefore one has to understand this. In fact, some these writers on Vedanta, some great saintly people have told, have you ever asked credentials to the sense organs? Never. You have not calibrated them. You have not sought credentials from them, and therefore they are just misinformers, unchecked. It is Swami Vivekananda asked that this in Jnana Yoga book, that the senses are cheating us all the time, and yet we believe the evidence provided by them. It is that is how our delusion continues. Because we believe in them. I see it. Well, I see it doesn't mean that it is right. In that plane, in that context, it may be useful and it may be right to that extent, but only to that extent. It is very important, therefore, to see how relative is the knowledge that we get from this by the senses, using these sense organs. They cheat us all the time, and yet we trust them and thus get cheated. Otherwise, why there is so much of confusion in us? Why are we suffering from restlessness and loss of peace and happiness? It is because although the senses show something at one point, when we go to examine, we see it is not real. Our senses show us, tell us that that is a source of happiness. But when we go there, we see, we find out that it is not the source of happiness. Rather, we are bound and miserable by following the senses. And yet we are habituated again and again. We have been just given such kicks by our following of the sense organs. And yet we are bound to follow them. We are not able to cut this bondage. It is thus if we see why we suffer, because we follow these perceptions of the sense organs and take them to be correct, and discard any evidence to show otherwise. Not that we don't see that evidence that they are wrong, but we discard that evidence. It is after some other, similarly these sensory evidence, another evidence emerges, then we see that it is not, what we earlier saw was not correct. And that is like the earth is flat. Our sense organs, what do they show, Charlie? Do they show that the earth is round? Huh? Even then it doesn't seem round. Even in the ocean, it all appears to be flat for our eyes. The limitation of our eyes is such that it appears flat. And also it appears to be steady. We do not see that it is round and in constant motion. Our sensory organs do not show it to us. It is only because of certain contradictory sensory evidence we discover that this was not real. Like the contradictory evidence, how the the horizon appears to be equidistant in all directions. If earth had been flat, suppose you draw a circle on a flat land, and then you move towards the circumference of that circle in one direction, and then that side of the circle will appear closer to you, the other side will become farther from you. But with horizon, does it happen like that? Even if you go 100 miles, it still seem to be a circle. And why is it happening? Because that earth is round, a ball, and that is why it happens like that it does not thus change. We see, therefore, that going to the west ultimately can bring us to the east, because earth is round and it moves. I used to argue that how it moves, had it been moving Imagine myself standing on a moving ball, I would fall down. But since I don't fall down, the conclusion is that the earth does not move, it is neither round nor does it move. That example of how we believe our senses and thus arrive at a wrong conclusion. It is then investigation happens because of the contradictions. And thus what we see, one wrong gets replaced by something that is relatively right. That's all. It is not again the complete truth. Science goes on discovering these things, but they are relative truths, get superseded. They get superseded by other truths. Means as the time moves on, we see that what we believed earlier as the discovery of science and throwing the proper light on things, after some years our understanding gets completely changed because certain new ideas have emerged, new facts have emerged. So this is the nature of the knowledge that comes due to using the sense organs. That's all. So it is the contradictory nature gets seen when, for example, if we see through microscope something and then believe that it is so thick, a hair seen through microscope will look to be very thick, like a stick. But believing that if you go to lift it, you will be deceived, because it is not like that. It is actually very thin and small. So our sense perceptions land us in contradictions, and therefore we must feel the need to transcend it as a search for the truth. If we want to move searching for the truth, then what we should do? Transcend the limitations of the sense organs. That it is in a particular context, that is we see like that. That is what we should understand. Like the dark glasses put on the eyes, they will make us see the world in a particular way. If I remove that, it will be seen in a different way. But both are limited experiences only. None of them is true. Not that putting on the dark glasses is wrong experience and without dark glasses it is right experience. No, friends. Our present these lenses, they are also kind of these glasses through which we see, but since they cannot be removed as easily, at least as the shades can be removed from the eyes, so that appears to be real. No, that also is not real. So therefore one has to see that through the senses we get only the relative knowledge In fact, it is difficult to call it knowledge. In Vedanta, it is called, therefore, it provides the variety of ignorance. Ignorance variegated. That is how it is presented in Upanishads, in Shankara's commentary, and like that. So, Sri Ramakrishna had this capacity because his being established in the state that transcends all sense organs, transcends all physical limitations, and also therefore can go onto various different planes of existence. The ethereal planes that we have no idea about it, like the ghosts, spirits, different type of these beings which are on a different plane of existence, and therefore we do not perceive them. That doesn't mean that they are not there, and they are not caught by the net of our sense organs, that's all. They are, but their space, time are different. They are ethereal, therefore it is called ethereal, just because they cannot be perceived. But Sri Ramakrishna could perceive them also. He could ascend to their plane. He could ascend to the plane, sometimes it is called different angels, the demigods, the spirits, all that, these there are various words in all different literature, like yaksha, means some celestial being of a different nature. They have certain capabilities that human beings don't have, and don't have certain capabilities that human beings have. So, Sri Ramakrishna had all these things open for his understanding, awareness, could go into any being and get through that. Just to give another analogy, suppose I am tied down here, cannot move, then I will not be able to see what is going on, say, at your Wayland Square. I will, because I am limited here, cannot go out. But if I am freed from here, then I may be able to walk there and see what's happening there. So, Sri Ramakrishna, a free being, not tied to body. Imagine that state, This is just an analogy I am giving. Suppose I am tied here, then my perceptions will be limited to whatever I can perceive from this position. But when I am freed from here, then all other perceptions, wherever I can go, I can see that. I can go to, say, Paris and see how Paris appears, whatever. So it is, I can even go. Recently some people have taken a spacecraft, that, what is it called? That SpaceX. 4 people went for a space trip. Anybody have read about it? Jitendra, have you read about it? So they went and had, for how long did they go there? Not much longer. What, Abhijit? You read these things, isn't it? For some time and they went in the space. So they could see what we are not able to say. So, thus you can understand that why Sri Ramakrishna could get into so many different types of bodies, into different types of awareness and experience, because he is not tied down to one body. That is the place. So Saradananda explains further that it is now clear that the master was not limited to seeing people and things of the world from a single perspective as we are. Bound to the chair, my perspective is limited. I cannot know anything except what I can perceive by being on this chair. Bound. So we are tied to just one, this heap of flesh, blood and so forth. Imagine, what a state we are in. It is here that our awareness is tied, and we are able to see only that. And the result is fanaticism. Because I cannot see anything more beyond this, then I say this is the only truth. That is, and we form opinions. It is there is this psychology of I am right. It is I am right because my true nature, the self, is never wrong. It is always right. But then that is tied to this body, and then whatever this body knows, understands, I feel that is I am right, and whatever Punita is seeing is wrong. Sri Ramakrishna could not do that because he could see through all eyes. Imagine. That is what is making him so Catholic in his views, that yes, if you see from that person's perspective, it makes some sense. We cannot do that tied to a particular physical awareness, and so I am right. That one person told me, why do you get angry and fight? Well, I should not get angry, I understand, but I feel I am right. Well, yes, you are right from that position, but other person also could be right, isn't it, from that position? It is, we do not have that freedom. So, that is what is making, us fanatics angry, that and thus we make friends, they become enemies. Then when the perspective changes, again the enemies become friends. This keeps on happening in the individual world, in the world of the nations and so forth. So we see that Sri Ramakrishna didn't have that problem. His view of people and things changed accordingly. It was therefore impossible for him to harbor the one-sided beliefs and narrow attitudes that we have. We have such narrow attitudes because of the impressions, say, even from the past lives and collected in this life. We just brand that we people are good. The people belonging to my religion are good. I don't care about people in general, even belonging to my religion. But since I am good and I belong to this religion, so my religion is good. Not only good, the best. Not only that, the only religion. All other religions are false. It is they are bad. It becomes a common conclusion, and then I find a bad person in some community, some society following certain religion. I take a big broad brush and paint that. These are all bad. If it is shown that, well, what you call your community, they also have such people, no, you don't see that. No, no, that is not true. Even if you try to put that, look at the percentage. Who sees that percentage as if it has been yeah, all this one-sidedness is not with Sri Ramakrishna, because he could identify himself with all different levels of people. Imagine, this kind of freedom, that you see through the other body, and thus you can have that broadness. Our broadness is mostly, theoretical, intellectual understanding, and it is better than not having broadness at all. But Sri Ramakrishna's broadness was because of that experience. And if we feel this, we will at least to that extent be broad. At least the least will be that we will not harbor ill feelings towards other people. We know that those ill feelings, what it does, it makes my mind rot. It is what happens to my heart. If I am harboring a fanatic and wrong view, my mind gets rotten. And thus I move away from God consciousness. It is very detrimental for spiritual practice to harbor such views, these very fanatic views. So, it is important that Sri Ramakrishna's awareness is free from all these, and thus is able to see the truth as such. We know a man as a man, a cow as a cow, and it is not just limited to human beings, to every creature, that the philosophical basis of this understanding is being now shown, that we know a man as a man, a cow as a cow, and a mountain as a mountain. He saw a man, a cow, and a mountain as they truly are, and at the same time he saw the indivisible Satchidananda, the cause of the world, shining through them. That is how the comprehensive awareness is. That the statues of, say, the Charles Dickens and many other literary figures like Mark Twain, Arthur Conan Doyle and Shakespeare make all these statues of the literary figures made of wax. Now, to think that this is Charles Dickens, this is Shakespeare, if you see it like that only, then it is only partial truth. To see that this is Charles Dickens, but it is wax. This is Shakespeare, but it is actually wax. Same. This is Mark Twain, but same. And means Mark Twain and Charles Dickens are not same. Not that they have written the same books. That will be ridiculous. But what it means is see the inside. It is the same reality shaped, only shaped in different ways, different molds. So the differences in the world that we see is only of outer form. The form, and because of the form you attach a name to it. That is how the changing form gets a pseudo continuity, sameness, because continuity. This is Yogatmananda. Things, the form changes. It is difficult, to now recognize the old form. There was somebody sent a picture, Yogatmananda, when I had sometimes in 1987, I had gone to some place, the picture was taken, and then recently from somebody's collection it was forwarded to me. Old style camera photo scanned and all that. So now it is difficult to identify this form with that form. So different, it is. And yet, because of the same name, Yogatmananda and Yogatmananda, you feel, hey, the same person. It is, that is all really different forms of Brahman. The inside is, when we see, then the knowledge is complete, isn't it? The knowledge is complete only, and not just the form and name, but the inner substance, the essence of that form, that brings the knowledge. It is, otherwise it is no knowledge. It is very partial and deceptive knowledge. And that is why it is said that partial knowledge is more dangerous than ignorance. If you don't know, at least you know that you don't know. Now in this case you don't know, but you think that you know. That becomes more dangerous, friends. So that is how we do not know, but we become so arrogant due to our understanding that I know. Without knowing, I have this understanding that I know, and thus we become arrogant. Ignorance of this type breeds arrogance. Little knowledge makes arrogance. Lot of frothy talk comes out. In our Hindi language, there is a saying that if there is only in a pot, if there is only half filled with water, then when you move with that pot, that water makes a lot of noise. It says, therefore, that half-filled pot makes more noise. So it is like us that our knowledge is very limited, but we are so convinced in that limited and wrong knowledge, and thus we also become fanatic, thinking that I am right, the others are wrong. I am good, the others are bad. So, and then that happens with the other people also. That yes, I am good, they are bad. So now how to decide? Okay, let us come to blows, either physically or intellectually, and then decide who wins. So that is how it gives rise to violence. So Sri Ramakrishna could see both, that the indivisible Satchidananda, the same wax in all statues, the same Satchidananda in all these statues. There are big statues like the sun and so forth. There are some statues which are very small, like a virus. But all the small or big, all is really Satchidananda alone. So this is something that Sri Ramakrishna could experience, and therefore Swami Vivekananda writes that in that book, My Master, that I have not heard any curse from his lips at all, because of this awareness. So, the only differences between a man, a cow, and a world and a mountain are the greater and lesser degrees to which Satchidananda is visible through the veil of ignorance that covers each of them to varying degrees. The Master told us, I see all things, trees, plants, people, cows, grass, water, as if they are covered with different sheets like pillowcases. Haven't you seen them? Some are made of coarse cloth, dyed red, some are finely patterned cloth, and others of different kinds of cloth. Some are quadrangles, some are round. Everything is in the universe is just like that. Just as there is only one substance, cotton, stuffed into all these pillowcases, so the same indivisible Satchidananda exists within the sheets of people, cows, water, mountain, and everything else. Look, I see clearly that the Divine Mother has covered herself with different wrappers. This is his experience, This is not philosophizing intellectually. Let us be clear about it. It is not somebody sitting in the one study and reading a few books and then thinking about it and writing these things, but it is a matter of his intimate, immediate experience, and that is how his life was. And thus you could see that there are no desires there. It is there is contentment complete, peace complete, bliss complete, a fulfilled person because of this complete knowledge, not just erroneous partial understanding. So, this Divine Mother has assumed various forms and is peeping through them. He could see Divine Mother peeping through all these wrappers. It is that without understanding my condition, people tried to correct and pacify me. Ramlal's mother and others began to cry out in grief and to weep. When I looked at them, I saw that it was the same mother, pointing to the Kali temple, who has assumed these forms and was doing all that. Ramlal's this mother. So that uh, it is his mother was that they started all crying that this Sri Ramakrishna has gone mad, insane. See how, and that is what people will see, that if you start seeing all different people as same, and we will see like that. So it is, Mother, you are acting as well. Sri Ramakrishna could see all that and say, oh Mother, you are acting in all different forms. One day when I was meditating, seated in the Kali temple, I could not bring the mother's form to my mind at all. Then I saw that she has appeared in the form of Ramani, a prostitute who came to bathe at the Dakshineshwar Ghat and was peeping from behind the water pot before the image. I laughed and said, "Oh mother, you have a desire to become Ramani today." Means take that form to appear before me. No form is bad as such. It is a form that that Divine Mother takes. Everything is Divine Mother. So for Sri Ramakrishna, everything is holy and pious. There is, and that happens when one comes to that stage. Sri Ramakrishna's into that intimate disciple, Swami Shivananda. He once saluted a cat that was going there. So as the disciple thought, why is he saluting a cat? He is not saluting a cat as such, but the God that is appearing in the form of cat has covered himself with that form of cat and is peeping through that. So that is how he could see God appearing in all forms. Friends, let us try to fathom, at least to some extent. Let us try to feel it, intellectually understand it, and then feel it in our minds that yes, this is how Sri Ramakrishna's awareness was. So accept my worship today in this form. He worshipped there like that. Thus she made me understand I am also the prostitute. There is none other than me. Another day, while passing through the Mechua Bazar street by carriage, I saw her in the form of a prostitute. She was dressed nicely, wore jewellery and a small ornament on her forehead, and her hair was braided. Standing on a veranda, she was smoking tobacco from a gold-plated hubble bubble and enticing passers-by with her charms. Surprised, I exclaimed, "Mother, here you are in this form." Saying so, I bowed down to her. We have forgotten to see people and things from a higher plane of consciousness. How is it then possible for us to understand a master's experiences? So, friends, let us try to fathom this, that uh, Sri Ramakrishna is seeing that same one self in all, and thus could go get identified with whatever form and thus see through that. So his knowledge was infinitely dimensional, different infinite dimensions, from all different angles, different planes, he could see the things, not just one-sided like us. So let us think about it for a few minutes, what we read today, a few seconds maybe, and then in case if you have a question, you can ask. Yes, any question? Yes, Charlie?
Some people who you would call fanatics seem to be very devoted, but you say they lose God consciousness. And isn't that just saying that open-minded people are good and fanatics are bad?
No, well, it is, see, they become fanatics, and so to that extent their awareness is erroneous. It is not that open-minded people, they are open-minded uh, because they do not uh, go to any religion, and so they are open to all religions because they don't follow any religion. That it is like one celebrity was giving that one advertisement that, oh, this particular medicine I take, I have no ill, he said, this, he didn't say I take, that this medication has absolutely no ill effect, no side effect on me. And then his friend accosted him, hey, I never saw you taking that medication. How could you give such an advertisement? It is, you are lying. Said, no, I am not lying. I have no side effects of that medication because I never take it. So I didn't say anything any lie as such. So these broad-minded, they have no religion to follow, and therefore they are broad about all religions. They have nothing to do with any of them. So they appear to be like broad-minded. But that is, those who are devoted to some form of religion, they are devotees, but they have this fanatic understanding that only this is true and only this is good, all others are bad. So that is also wrong. It is, one should follow one's path, correct, but it should not mean that you should think others are wrong, others are bad, and so forth. Yeah. Yes, Sharada? Please, please. Martyrdom, okay. Yeah. Well, pain is actually an experience when one is connected with body. Otherwise, there is no pain if you are separated from body. It is, you don't feel the pain if you are transcendent over body. In fact, at a different plane, but that is what the anesthesia does, you know. When you have to be surgically operated, the limbs are to be cut, and then you are given an anesthetic. And so, although your limb is cut, separated, and again joined, and all that, you don't feel pain because you are not tied to the body at that time. Well, let me, for the web listeners, let me put your question, that is, they can appreciate that before transcendence, uh, uh, in the process, do they feel pain? Yes, they do feel pain because they have not transcended. But as they transcend, they don't feel. Second thing is, even when they have transcended, if they are working through a body, then they can feel pain because they are putting on that body now. But when they don't want, they can get out of it. They have certain work to do through that body. And so for that time they have put on that body. But since that is, they know that it is not actually they, it is not I, but it is body. But since I have put on this body, the pain of this body and mind complex becomes my pain, so to say. Apart from that, there is no pain when they take that body away. It is many times, you see, we inflict pain to get pleasure. That is how the world is, friends. The dividing line between pleasure and pain is so funny. It is once I took a sip of beer. Beer, you know beer? Long ago, I took a sip of beer. And then, it is, it felt such a bad taste in mouth. After a few minutes, I had to actually, I threw up. But then, you see, so it is painful, but when you get habituated to that pain, you think that it is a great pleasure. People would go to, get beer, get such drinks. It is all very relative. I don't feel the pain of eating chilies, but I am sure many would feel the pain if they eat chili. And I am sure in my first experiences with chili, I did feel the pain. But that became then the source of pleasure. So it is, pleasure and pains in the world are like that. So thus through the body, it has that. But when you know that you are not that, you do not get adversely affected by those. Yes,
Yeah, I have a question, Swamiji.
this is web question or your question?
My question.
Oh, okay.
Is there any web question? No web question. But
Okay.
the question is, do our sense organs, do they deceive us, or the mind which takes input from those sense organs, the mind deceives us more than the sense organs?
Well, actually, the sense organs, they are part of the subtle body. Uh, all of that is together means the sense organ never acts independently. The organ that is fixed to the body, they are just the sockets to receive the information, but it becomes information only when it is processed. The sense organs, let us put it, receive the signal, and then it gets processed by our various brain centers, and then there is a reaction from the mind. So that is how this is together, the sense organs, the hardware and the associated software, that cheats us, that deceives us. So when I said sense organ, it includes all these. Mind alone again will not be able to deceive us without sense organs. So it is all together. The mind functions through sense organs, either gross or subtle. It is all put together, it becomes one equipment. It is called the subtle body. The gross body is just a covering to that. It does not decipher anything, it does not come to any conclusion. It is only a covering to, like the box in which you put the various computer things. That box has certain holes here, there, and the particular size to house the different things, and those different things again they have the functionality only because they get loaded with certain programs, and that is what I call software. When they are loaded with certain programs, many of them like a hard disk, if there is nothing, no program on it, it will not even be able to do the function of hard disk. It has to be properly programmed to get the information stored. So similarly, our sense organs is a part of this equipment, and then that functions together, and that whole equipment, as it were, cheats us. It is told that sense organs cheat us because in that context we feel that the eyes see, but eyes in conjunction with the other part of the apparatus like mind, intellect, ego, all that together they form a wrong understanding, wrong image, and that cheats us. It is in Patanjali's aphorisms, you see that it is all classified as Shabda, Artha and Jnana, the external signal that is received by the socket called sense organs, that is called Shabda. Then it is means external signal. Then it gets carried through nervous system, and then gets processed into something that is called earth. there is some kind of a imagery is produced there. That also is not any knowledge as such. Then our intellect or mind, the words get used in a kind of not well formed way. So that responds to it, that is called jnana. And that jnana is that a very partial jnana, partial knowledge, and therefore it is erroneous. Yeah. So let us conclude with the closing prayer. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.